We're live! Hello and welcome to another episode in Season 6 of Creative Recharge. We're here to help you recharge your creativity, as the name implies. And today we're going to talk about Harley Quinn, the character from the Batman franchise. So, the reason why Harley Quinn is worth discussing for an entire episode is she's really a gateway character for a lot of audience members that would not normally be into Batman or be into the Batman comic books or the Batman movies or TV shows or cartoons or anything. But she has a unique ability to bring in non-traditional or less traditional audience members, and they really become lifetime fans. So that is what we're planning to discuss today. And to help me today, there's Tam. So, hey Tam.
Hey Glow.
I don't even remember how we ended up choosing Harley Quinn, honestly.
Um,
Other than I've always been fascinated by the people who are like, do you have any Harley Quinn comic books? And it's like, really? You're into Batman? No, I'm not into Batman, but I like Harley Quinn. What? Okay.
I mean, she is very different from most heroes, villains, and anti-heroes.
Well, I feel like just if we're looking at the Batman comic books, the original Batman comic books, Batman was definitely influenced by the Dick Tracy comic strip.
Yeah.
Because the villains are very Dick Tracy-esque villains. You know, the Joker, Two-Face, just
Killer Croc.
The Penguin. Like, what? Like, but if you've ever looked at Dick Tracy comic strips, or even the 1990s Dick Tracy movie with Warren Beatty, or was it late 80s? Anyway,
That was 90s.
It's very similar. It's these like true caricatures of villains. And that was Batman's Rogue Gallery.
Yeah.
Where all of these. And also what I thought was so interesting about Batman villains, because I grew up watching the 1960s kids show on rerun after school in the 80s. And the origin stories of so many of these villains were actually kind of interesting. I mean, Harvey Dent was a former DA. And the Penguin was some sort of millionaire or billionaire or something.
Well, he came from an incredibly rich family.
Mm-hmm.
But because he was born with some limb differences, he was ostracized from upper society. And so did a lot to essentially get back at them. Yeah,
so like the characters had very interesting backgrounds. And then there's and Harley Quinn definitely fits in with that, in that she has a rather interesting background, because even with the Dick Tracy villains, they had sort of mundane, just, oh, it's just criminals, you know? They all came from hard, poor lives. This is just the poors. That's why we don't even call them by their real names, because they're poors. We call them by caricatures of their appearance.
Yeah, this is what the cops call these people.
Right. So, and to give them interesting and nuanced backgrounds was the difference, was the sort of other kind of perspective on that. And so Harley Quinn definitely fits in with that. And she does come from a poor background and then got herself through medical school, became a psychiatrist, and ended up working at Arkham Asylum, where obviously she was unhappy. Obviously, she was unhappy listening to, very deranged individuals all day. And as has been mentioned many times, what really drew Harley to Joker was that he listened to her. And that was something that she had not really experienced pretty much ever in her life before that.
Yeah, even her bosses didn't really listen to her.
Yeah, nobody listened to her. And her whole life, her whole upbringing, nobody listened to her.
Yeah, so we actually have a far more nuanced reason for these behaviors, and we can see how someone with this personality would end up there instead of just, oh, they were always a bad kid. They were always going to be this way as an adult. There was never, a chance for them versus no. Almost all of Batman's rogues gallery, at some point society failed and their response was, well, then I don't care for society. I'm going to get back at it.
Right.
Which is why they end up at Arkham, not in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can tell, like, no, you are just, your brain is not, no.
Mm-hmm.
This is not how people normally think.
So that is where we get to Harley Quinn. But we don't get to Harley Quinn all until the Batman animated series in 1993. There are so many other characters that were created before Harley Quinn, but they needed a mall type character as a foil for Joker for an episode. And that is the start of Harley Quinn. Truly like most Batman villains, she was created just to fill a need in a storyline.
And you can see the first couple early appearances that they were still working on her archetype and trying to figure her out. Because
Yes.
she definitely changes a bunch the first several appearances. But what she settled on really made an impact on people. As you see, even CB brought up there's a wrestling character that's pretty much just based on that character. Like, it's such an iconic person. And I'm always entertained by it because you can actually find it on YouTube. About 6-7 years ago, they did a documentary, like Warner Brothers commissioned a documentary on the animated series and its history and everything. And one of the things they brought up was Harley was based on a friend of the writers. As they just needed another character. So, they're like all good writers, just borrow from your friends of what you know. And they wrote her in. They used parts of her personality and stuff and quirks. And then, of course, made it extreme for Batman. And then as a coincidence, due to some strange situations, she was the voice actress for her for, the entire animated series. Was, this person, they were like, wouldn't it be fun if she was in the Batman world? You're like, yeah, let's write her in. And I think that relatability and that, this seems more like a real person instead of, as Gloria was talking about, the one-dimensional characters and villains in Dick Tracy, and even a lot of Batman ones for the longest time were a bit one-dimensional and they were slowly developed. But, Harley, because it was a retro retake on the classic ones, came out fully formed after just a few episodes. They're like, no, we got to give her personality. We see why she does this stuff, and that, yeah, it's hard. She has faults that she notices. She's not in denial like so many. And I think it's what everyone else, I think it's what a lot of people really relate to is, I see the problems with my personality, but they're really hard to change. And in the meantime, I just want to get back at them. You know, that sometimes it just feels good to be petty. And, you know, you try to grow, but there you are back again. And I think that's why she keeps bringing in these new audiences to otherwise would not be interested in this genre because they can relate. And that's what audiences are looking for, is characters they relate to. That's the whole point of POV characters in novels. Is, you know, they're often left a bit not as well developed as a lot of the other characters in a story, so the reader can put themselves in there. Yeah. But yeah, Harley is just always someone who's fun, though. We love her choices. Even if, yes, they are not always the best choices, and they often are not impetuous.
Impulsive?
Impulsive, yeah.
So I watched all of the Harley Quinn appearances in Batman the Animated Series. And I like that in just the first 2 seasons, her character really does flesh out quite a bit. And that that whether they intended this or not, the writers, whether they intended it, she really does get to show her strengths and weaknesses in just a handful of episodes. As well as we do get to better understand the relationship dynamic that will define Harley and Joker's relationship from then till now. It is kind of interesting of Joker is kept on his toes by Harley. He thinks he knows her, and again he thinks he's got his finger on her pulse, and then she surprises him. He thinks, "Oh, she's just fluffy. You'll never hurt anybody. You don't have it in you." And she pulls the trigger on him of no, you can't push her too far. And all that happens after that is he respects her more and he loves her more. Because he doesn't, even though he surrounds himself with goons and yes men, that is not what he wants. He wants an equal.
I mean, it's definitely why they talk about, you know, Joker needs Batman. And we see that throughout the stories of Joker bases himself against others. Joker doesn't actually have as much individual personality.
Mm-hmm.
And so looks for other strong personalities to work against. And so, yeah, that's why the Joker is fascinated with Batman, and where Harley and Joker sort of bonded was on that interest in strong personalities. Because it's not that they don't have their own strong personalities, they just don't know how to really be themselves alone in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. They need others to act against.
Well, in many ways, they're reactionaries. Although that was it was explored in the Batman animated series with the episode "The Man Who Killed Batman." And we do see that Joker truly does mourn the loss of Batman. And that he is deeply affected by the loss of Batman or the potential death of Batman. So that it is true about what they say about arch nemesis is also, to some degree, sort of a frenemy. And that there is Harley trying to support Joker as he is doing his best to process his grief.
Very poorly, of course.
Well, of course. I mean,
But yeah, I think she's definitely someone a lot of writers can learn from and take notes about, of how do you create someone who is interesting with foibles, but is a fully developed character.
so I think it's very interesting that I think one of the very much a selling point and why she's a gateway character for so many people is that Harley Quinn is very honest about her vulnerabilities. And she is not trying to shield her vulnerabilities or consider her vulnerabilities to be a liability. She recognizes of, hey, this is just my vulnerabilities, and people may try to manipulate me, but she's very smart and she's always evaluating what they're saying. So she doesn't discard what people are saying out of hand. She processes it and determines whether it's valid or not. But she also doesn't try to pretend she doesn't have vulnerabilities that she does in fact have. She is a refreshingly honest character who does not try to mask despite the mask she wears.
Mm.
And this is what I've heard again and again from audiences who very much enjoy and Harley appeals to them, and they want more to read about more characters like that. And it's like there's just not a lot of characters like that. And I think that that is in part because so many writers do so much self-insert, and when people do self-insert, they tend to try to show an idealized version of themselves rather than the vulnerable side of themselves that fails and tries again and fails and tries again and doesn't give up. So they're showing an idealized version of their self insert rather than a functional version of a self insert. Of this is how this kind of character can survive no matter what. But instead of that, they want a perfect character. And nobody's perfect. And frankly, perfect characters are not relatable. Because again, nobody is perfect. None of us are perfect. And when we encounter perfect characters, we don't really have a whole lot in common with them because they don't fail. That is the problem with perfect characters. We need characters with relatable weaknesses and relatable strengths, and that in the end, what we want in them, the idealized part, is the part that they are forever trying to be functional. They are forever trying to thrive in a world that is just very difficult. And Harley is set apart from the majority of other characters out there because what she is she is always trying to function. She is always trying to find her way in the world, and she does get into these places, these mindsets where she's expecting other people to look out for her when they're not, when they don't, and she learns it the harsh way. And then there she is trying to put her life back together. Very relatable experience. And it appeals to so many people. I mean, honestly, personally, I very much enjoyed the Harley Quinn cartoon series that I think is now in its third season.
Yep.
That is surprisingly fun to watch. I also enjoyed it for showing a more vulnerable side of a variety of the villains from Batman. Because since Harley is on the, naughty list, she has so many more interactions with other rogues and also just minor characters through her association, her friendships with all these other characters. Also, and I know that this is supposed to be about Harley Quinn, but can I just say that the King Shark version of the character in Harley Quinn is my favorite version. Ron Funches is wonderful. Um, like, what a sweet teddy bear version. But I mean, like at a certain point, Poison Ivy is dating. I can't remember that character's name. I don't know. What was he, like, Kite Man or something?
Yeah, something like that.
It's a terrible name. It's terrible, like, character, and they absolutely roast him, and it's fantastic.
I was thinking about Kite Man and stuff in the Harley Quinn TV series, and what I was reminded of is it is a more nuanced lampoon of the DC universe. That definitely took a few notes from what was it, Venture Brothers, which just actually did mostly for the Hanna-Barbera stuff because they're on Cartoon Network. Of this, the old kids fair tended to have very simplified characters and personalities and didn't look at, but what kind of world would this be? This is a ridiculous world anyone would live in. How do you live in that? And yeah, I think Harley Quinn, the current TV cartoon series, really does a good job diving into that. What would it really be like? And yeah, it ain't easy. It's not fun. You don't blame some of the villains as much because this is a messed up world. When you're not sure if you're going to make it to work that day.
Mm-hmm. It's very chaotic.
It's very broken. But I mean, that's part of the fun of it is it's a comfortable distance emotionally from our own lives. We don't have those kind of problems popping up. So we can enjoy how they handle it without second guessing them much. You really can just turn off and enjoy and go, oh, how will they handle this? That's crazy. What they going to do? Bravo. That's never thought of that solution, but bravo. That just, yeah, including like Ron Funches' King Shark, this, definitely an interesting duality character. Like Two-Faced, taken down from the 11 Two-Face tends to be down to closer to like a 3.
Or just Clayface.
Alan Tudyk is acting best.
Endlessly overacting. It's so much fun. There's just so much joy in this cartoon series that I'm normally not into, but it's just so much fun. And to say the adventures are madcap would be an understatement.
Yes. And after rewatching, I was surprised how well the Batman animated stuff holds up.
Mm-hmm.
As far as since it's a kid's show and it's kids, half-hour cartoon. These are short stories. These are, half story, half visual actions going on in the story. So you can definitely see how you would write this story in a short space to tell all of it. And and they often do it well. Like a lot of times will try to do, a true 3-act story in, 22 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can see just what are the high points? What does this look like? How would I write this? You don't have to have a lot of filler. You can just develop, do these stories. And I noticed in some of these where you'd see these stories pop up again, and that you can really use these little short stories as a way to work out ideas and characters and see if this is a full story that people would be interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, we talk about that just, getting the XP to become a writer in part requires doing full stories. It does not mean having to write a full novel.
It's true.
If you can get the full story in a little short story or, something truly small, you can get the same XP because you're still getting that same emotional arc and that same development to see like what works, what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I liked about him. And I was surprised because so many kids shows do not hold up from before.
Yeah.
Because they were mostly just meant to entertain kids. And not only to entertain kids, but they were, was it episodic?
Yeah.
Instead of,
Arcs.
huh?
Story arcs.
Yeah. Where they have to sort of reset to, neutral after the end of each of them. And yet Batman ones, like, yeah, they reset, but they're all good. They all are interesting. And they don't quite reset. They do continue on some of this.
Mm-hmm.
And they build on them. And so you can even see, how do I write a series of stories? How do I get a series of short stories to line up and be something interesting to watch together? And yeah, as time went on, they developed Harley more, and she definitely carried stories more and more. And you can see, how do you build up this character to be something your readers and watchers will follow along with.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, it was actually kind of new when Batman animated series did it, of writing stories based on villain characters.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, that's what's going on in, what was it, Harley Quinn and Ivy? Or Harley and Ivy episode?
Yeah.
It's about them. It's not about Batman or the Joker, who just show up at the very end to ruin things.
Or how sassy Robin is.
Yes.
Like, my God, somebody needs to smack that boy a little. It's not like he's right either. But he got a mouth on him.
Yeah, he does. He always did. And if I remember right, no, that was supposed to be the original one. That was supposed to be Dick. He just acted more like the other one, Jason. Yeah. That everyone's like, you know what? We can leave him for dead. But yeah, overall, I smile whenever Harley's character shows up and stuff.
I mean, what I like about her is chaos. I gotta be honest, I'm just here for the ride.
That's true. It is always a ride whenever she's involved, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just here for the adventure. And Harley is always good for a ride. Like, when Harley shows up, oh, it's going to be wild. It's going to be a buckle up kind of situation. And that's all I want. I just want an adventure. I just want something to distract me.
I mean, how many times have you seen what was it, Batman and Harley Quinn?
Yep.
The movie?
Yes.
Because it is a wild ride.
That's all I want. I just want a show. I just want some fun.
And Harley is really good at what was that term that script doctor teacher called it? Shocking surprise?
Yes, the shocking surprise.
Of creating those in her stories most of the time. Like when people write with Harley, they're really good at like, all right, let's give her a reason to drop her jaw.
Mm-hmm.
Or for everyone else in the room to drop their jaw at what she plans to do.
Mm-hmm.
But to change the acts by this true surprise that as the audience, you're not going to see coming. And part of it is because she is chaos. There is no rails for her to jump off of. It's always a surprise over the next hill.
Mm-hmm. I think what it is I mean, like, and I can only speak to what I'm more familiar with. And what I really enjoy and I look forward to when Harley Quinn shows up is she is going to get into some serious shenanigans, and it is always interesting to see how she gets herself out. Or even how other people get her out occasionally. Like where Batman actually helped her get out of the occasional difficult situation because he saw she was just having a bad day. And I think that is one of the things is she's going to get herself into it, and most of the time she's able to get herself out, or she's able to go find somebody who can help her get herself out of her trouble. And I really like that.
That's the other odd part compared to a lot of others you don't see as much. Harley will go find outside help.
Yeah.
She is not someone who would rather lose on her own than get assistance from anyone. She is very much up for, if you can help in this situation, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And she is always ready to create a team as well. And like that's even what we saw in Harley and Ivy. It was Harley who's like, okay, we can join. We're in the same situation, then let's both get out together. Versus a lot of these characters who are so individualistic, like they're hyper individualistic. I mean, especially Batman. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why there's been a lot of sigh of relief with the, saying that they're bringing in the Bat family in the upcoming movies. Because I think everyone at this point is tired of how many times we have to see Batman's parents die. We know. Everyone knows. There's no question. And he's just going to do it on his own, and he's going to make himself superhuman. Versus most of us are, humans, and by that nature, we like community. We like being in groups. We like being with others. And that's what we want to also see reflected in our media is, joining up with others and seeing the dynamics of how they work together.
So we're bringing in Batgirl and Robin. I suspect Robin inherited his sassiness from Alfred. I said it.
That is, yeah. Yeah, Alfred definitely has not helped.
Alfred is very sass forward.
I mean, thinking about it now.
Does that mean James Gunn is going to bring in the Bat Dog?
Well, I mean they did in the cartoon movie that just came out.
Well, they're gonna put a cape on a dog.
No, but mostly it's going to be, Batgirl, Batwoman, Robin. Who did Dick become? Nightwing. And there's a few others as well who also do this throughout. They essentially take over whenever Bruce is out of town.
Because, I mean, he needs to have a social life, right?
And he occasionally has, international things to go help out with the Justice League.
Is that it? The Justice League is pulling him away from Gotham.
Oh, and also they're bringing in his son, Damian, to again be Sass incarnate. Oh, and he's named well.
Yay.
I do like Seaweeds. The best time was in Dark Knight Trilogy with Michael Caine playing Alfred.
The
I mean,
sass.
I was just thinking, like, I saw a podcast recently where they were interviewing Tim Russ, who played Tuvok on Voyager, and he was saying how he lost the role in Fresh Prince, the original, to, I can't remember the British actor's name, because Tim was playing it very straight versus the British actor who got the role in Fresh Prince was played with so much sass.
Oh, yes. Yes, I can't remember his name. Yeah.
And that's why he got the role, was, he was definitely doing an impression of Alfred.
Yep.
Because, I mean, even Alfred in Batman 66 was very low-key sassy.
Yes. There's so there's an episode of Batman the Animated Series where it's like Harley has a very bad day. And Batman is out clothes shopping with his girlfriend. I can't remember her name right off the top of my head. It doesn't matter. But she makes this comment about, I can't believe Alfred let you leave the house like that. And I'm like, oh, she better be so lucky Alfred cannot hear you. Because guess who's not getting lobster thermidor? I mean, and Bruce just takes it. He doesn't even say, don't let Alfred hear you say that. Like, he does. He just, like, lets it go. And I'm just like, wow. No, it's not Selena Kyle. It's some redheaded woman. I would have recognized Selena Kyle. It was not.
No, this was a Bruce was out on a date to maintain
Yeah, it was like
his Playboy appearance.
Her father was a general who, like, literally tries to take a tank on the road against Harley Quinn because Harley Quinn took the Batmobile and the girlfriend was in the car, or she took whatever vehicle, not the Batmobile. She took whatever Bruce was driving, which was some Corvette or something. And the girlfriend was in the car. She's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to kidnap you. I promise I'm going to drop you off at the end of today, And it's just, it's just Harley having a bad day. That's all. Yes, very much a Pepper Potts look-alike.
Yes.
But yeah, anyway, her father, like, goes on a rampage, and it's the whole thing.
It is another part that we get to see different side of Batman. It's of that where Batman is going, we know you had a bad day. It was a misunderstanding. It's okay. You can chill. Again, something we don't see that often.
It did. It showed a very different side of Bruce Wayne, and I appreciated that. Because I really don't like these cardboard cutout interpretations of Batman. Like, yes, he has money. It's disgusting. But there's still a person in there, one hopes. And a person is nuanced. But many of the interpretations of Batman really have no nuance. And I take issue with that.
Yeah, they remind me of the old James Bond character.
Yes. So, I was genuinely surprised how much last night I enjoyed watching the Harley Quinn episodes from Batman the Animated Series, because Tom made a list for me. And I was just going through those and watching all of those. And I was very happily surprised how easy it was to watch the episodes. I mean, Harley is a chaotic bomb. Do you just need chaos thrown into any situation? Just put Harley in there. It's going to be fine. Because she is walking chaos, but she's also very intelligent. So it's not dumb chaos. Also, frankly, those hyenas, what the hell? There's a lot going on.
It's that, it's when you're when your significant other wants a kid and you're just like, I don't want a kid, so you keep getting them pets.
I also I'm kind of disappointed they got rid of the hyenas in the Harley Quinn cartoon series, because every time I see her with those two hyenas, the Batman the Animated series, all I can think about are the false penises that female hyenas have to ward off
Yeah.
male hyenas, and I'm just like, are these actually just false penises? Like, I know it has nothing to do with anything, and I don't care. It's just like, what is going on? Also, when one of the episodes, I think it's Harley and Ivy. That episode is when Joker fires, quote unquote, fires Harley. So she leaves, and then he's like, the Joker is looking for his socks. He can't find socks, and then nobody has fed the hyenas, so things are not going well at home. And he's like, "Where's Harley?" And one of his goons, I can't remember which one, is like, "You fired her." And he's like, "Yes, but she always comes back. What happened to her?" You know, of that's just our flirting. That's our texting. Where did she go? Like, she went off and she made friends, and she has moved in at the toxic waste dump with, I can't remember Poison Ivy's real name, but Dr. whatever.
Pamela Isley.
Thank you. It's like Pam something. But she has moved in with Dr. Pam because, they're two career gals. They both have multiple degrees. And, once Harley gets the neurotoxin antidote, she's, Ivy's like, you can live here. At the dump. At the city toxic waste dump.
At the super fun site.
Yeah, who doesn't love that? What in the... But I actually really liked the Harley and Ivy episode because, in part, we do see Dr. Pam Isley very much more for a more rounded character. And again, a better portrayal of Poison Ivy, where we actually start understanding her background motivations.
Yeah.
And again, one of the things that is sort of a hallmark of the Batman villains is these are all people who are just trying to make the best of a really terrible world that they live in. And gosh darn, isn't that just so relatable?
I feel like CB, did bring up an interesting point of like in Golden Girls, Rose's character is definitely sort of similar.
Yes.
Plays a similar role as Harley in that she is chaos. She is always a surprise curveball.
Yeah, you never know what's going to come out of Rose's mouth. I love it.
And I think that's also what people really liked about her.
Yes.
In that group was she was the surprise. You didn't know what it was going to be.
I believe at some point in the show, Blanche actually says that of, I miss having Rose here. It's, you never knew what was going to come out of her mouth, and it was just fun. Every morning I'd wake up going, I wonder what Rose is going to say today. Like, and that Blanche looked forward to this.
But at the same time, Rose was a very consistent character. Being chaotic doesn't mean that you have to just be always a surprise. It just means that there's one aspect that always brings, innovative and a different perspective on things. And both Harley and Rose always did that whenever they showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Harley is fairly consistent in her characterization in the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
Gloria and I have some different views about the live actions.
Yes.
But we will save that for next hour.
Yes.
But
instead, we talk about what we love, which is the Batman animated series and the Harley Quinn cartoon. Again, if you haven't watched either, I do recommend both. I'm normally not into cartoons that are just okay. They have to be really good for me to recommend. And both of them are good, but in different ways. However, the thing that they are both very good about is you actually see over all these episodes, all the characters get fleshed out. All the characters get background stories. We really come to know and understand and appreciate every character, Even Wonder Woman in the Harley Quinn comic cartoon. Poor Wonder Woman. She has to deal with a lot because Harley just is like, "Hey, you're one of the girls, right?" And Wonder Woman's like, I don't know that we can be best buds because but also there are limited options, so you're not wrong. And so it's kind of interesting
Like
and rather relatable.
and we actually see that in a lot of the comics of Harley. Whenever they show up online, it's often those scenes of where Harley is still human and is still humane. So, like, there's one where she's fighting Black Canary, and Black Canary has morning sickness in the middle of the fight. And Harley, being a medical doctor, very quickly recognizes what's going on and is like, hold up. Time out. How about we finish this fight another time?
Yeah.
And there's Black Canary just like, what? He's like, girl, I can see what's going on with you. No.
Yeah.
No, we need to. This is not a time for you to be fighting like this. And I don't feel comfortable fighting you like
You
this.
need to go see it, OBGYN. Yep.
And also, there's other ones where we find out Harley has had a kid.
Yes.
And that the kid is with her family and does not know anything about her, simply because she does not want her kid to have this life or to be around these people. Like, she's able to recognize her problems, even if she herself cannot quite bring herself to get away from them.
Yeah.
She has a level of humanity and understanding of herself that you rarely see in comics.
Before we finish talking about comics, though, since Charlie is not here, they have a board meeting, and I'm not sure when the board meeting will end. But Charlie and I did discuss specifically the Batman the Animated Series last night, and specifically Kevin Conroy's portrayal as the only out queer person who's ever portrayed Batman. And one of the things that I liked about how Kevin Conroy portrayed Batman is Batman never leers at Harley. He always sees her as an equal, and he sees her as to a certain degree, essentially like a fallen professional of she working through things. But he does not leer at her. He is not like, hey, they've been over some more.
And he doesn't ever to talk to her like she is truly less than.
Yeah, he doesn't talk down to her. He very much talks to her like a peer, even though he does see her though as a fallen professional, of somebody who has left their career to obviously work through some things. And I really liked that portrayal of Batman. I hate it when Batman is leering at various people, women specifically, and it's like, oh, it's so gross. Batman should not be creepy like this. Ugh. And I just wanted to point that out of, yes, maybe Batman didn't leer because he was gay. Because he's portrayed by a gay man who was definitely not leering. But nevertheless, I very much appreciated that Batman character treated Harley Quinn with respect.
Also, just the animated Batman was definitely far more paternalistic in his heroing. Like, he was trying to help people as best he could, not just do stuff because it felt great to his psyche. As you see, like, another one that's brought up was, I think, in a Justice League one where he's talking to a Royal Flush character that was genetically modified, and she's going to have a real short lifespan. And she is essentially a ticking time bomb. And with a lot of psychic powers. And what does he do instead of just, incapacitating her and knock her out? He goes and sits on the swing set next to her and talks. because again, he tried, the animated one at least always tried to be humane.
Yeah. And that was in part why I had kind of honestly resisted watching the show all the 30 years, is because I was just so over the 80s Batman and even to some degree the 60s Batman, because Adam West did leer at every female on set.
Oh yeah.
And it was kind of creepy. Also, frankly, Adam West also leered at all the men. Like, if I'm really honest, he just...
Yeah, I was going to say, he just sort of leered at everyone. It was sort of a...
But nevertheless, like... And I just wasn't into that. I didn't want more of that, and I didn't realize that wasn't what it was in Batman the Animated Series. So I'm very glad that essentially doing this episode forced my hand to watch the show, and now I know, and I have much to delve into. But anyway, we are about to go to break, and when we come back, we will discuss the movies. So, hey, I'm just saying, do you have something to drink? How about a snack, a little snacky snack, a nibble? We'll see you all on the other side. Me-ba-da-bee. 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 Me-ba-da-bee.
And we're back.
Everybody have a good time.
I finished off the rest of my coffee.
I heated up another empanada and a coffee. Steaming hot.
Sometimes breakfast is so good you need it twice.
Yep, pretty much. Also, I could definitely go for a nap, which is among the things Tom and I talked about over the little sprinty sprint break. All right. So,
So, live action Harley Quinn.
Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey, The Suicide Squad, because why would we make it confusing?
Who named this trilogy?
No one. They don't know what they're doing. I'm going to tell you something, CB. I don't think you've really missed much. Especially if you've watched Batman the Animated Series and the Harley Quinn cartoon series and the Batman and Harley Quinn animated movie, you're fine. Because I have some real issues with how Harley Quinn is portrayed in 2 out of these 3 movies. So, Suicide Squad 2016 and Birds of Prey, I have some real notes on how Harley Quinn is portrayed. Now, I don't actually have that much in the way of notes for James Gunn's The Suicide Squad Harley Quinn. He actually did it approximately correctly. At least I have no major notes for that. So, Tom, do you just want to go ahead or do you want to wait and like reveal your head canon for Birds of Prey later?
I mean, since it's just us,
It's just as chickens.
I don't think there's any major fans of it right now, so it's probably best to talk about it like this, because if you really like this, I would suggest you skip ahead 10-20 minutes, because we have a lot of notes and problems with those first 2 movies, and we think they are valid.
Both in general, not just like in relation to Harley Quinn, but like actually just in general.
Yeah, in general, there were some major problems of this is not good modern storytelling, let alone characterization. We found it very regressive.
However, I don't want to blame like just the director or just the writer on this, because I did some further digging, and I think that both of these films, Suicide Squad 2016 and Birds of Prey, both suffered from too many executive notes and essentially too much executive influence. And that is why the stories got all muddied and weird and leering. Oh, can we please be safe from the gaze, the sexual gaze?
I say more specifically, old white man executive notes.
Yeah.
Is really what it felt like. Like this is these definitely reminded more of what I expect from movies in the 70s.
Yes, it had a feel. Yeah.
More schlocky.
Yeah.
But specifically, the problems we especially had with Harley was in Birds of Prey, where while it was written and directed by women, starring women, and some really good actresses, like they got a bunch of really good actresses to be in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
One, I'm pretty sure that they just script doctored the original third movie from the early 90s Batman. But after the second movie, Batman Returns, was deemed too dark for general audiences, they scrapped this Frank Miller story. And then decades later, Margot Robbie was like, I need a movie for Harley Quinn for me to, showcase my acting and me. And they, dug it back up as one they already had full rights on and everything. And then they just doctored it, and that's the person who gets credit. Because it really just feels like Frank Miller's Batman Returns.
Mm-hmm.
Down to the female Robin character shows up, who they've now switched to the character becomes Batgirl. And a lot of other little things. But the other part that Willa and I really have a problem with is the editor was a guy. And look at all the movies he's edited, he's probably almost certainly a misogynist. And the movie was edited to remove all of Harley's actions and individual choices. Everything happens to Harley in this edit. Harley doesn't choose to do that. She's always shown to be reticent and just dealing with in reactionary.
Which is not consistent with the Harley Quinn character.
We never see her just going, well, let's do a chaotic moment. This should be fun. As much as she is just reacting, and just even the executive notes as well, of Harley. For all of Harley's skills, she should not be in danger the way they put her in danger. They definitely painted her more as a damsel in distress who's lucky to get out of these dangerous situations than someone who is incredibly talented, intelligent, and some superhuman agility and strength.
Mm-hmm.
Like we see in The Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, essentially, she is a less mentally stable version of Black Widow.
That is the actual Harley Quinn character.
Yeah.
In many ways, she is a more spontaneous version of Black Widow. But in Birds of Prey, they portray her as timid, apologetic, which Harley does not. Harley doesn't apologize for taking up space. That has never been her thing. And Joker would have never tolerated that. So that was among the issues I had with Birds of Prey, that if anything, Birds of Prey came off, even though it's supposed to it's filled with female actresses, it comes off as very misogynistic, the whole film.
I mean, the way she breaks up with Joker is filmed and edited very specifically in she is the passive person in this situation. It is weird, given the Harley Quinn character we saw develop in the animated series, in the comic books. And then you get this, and it's like, what happened?
Mm-hmm. Really, Kitty?
Yeah, I agree, CB. Birds of Prey, and Endgame, and also Star Wars, the sequel series, with how they ran Rey, all have these feelings of it's supposed to be girl power, and instead it comes off Mary Sue.
Mm-hmm.
Of we don't get the development and progression and growth in these characters. Instead, we see them just being lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very, what is this BS? Like I wanted to see Pepper also get trained and overcoming her problems, not just all of a sudden showing up being a superpowered hero. It didn't feel right. Yeah, I had hopes, and the first one, episode 7, that like, I can see how they'd write this, that this all will make sense and is fine. But what they ended up doing, since they didn't actually have a story for the trilogy, just ended up feeling misogynistic in the end. And like, isn't this what women want? Versus how, just women would write these characters and how we would normally write any character. Again, like just too many notes, too much interference, not enough just genuine storytelling from a writer who knows how to write genuinely compelling characters.
Mm-hmm.
Same problem again in the Ghostbusters one from 2016, 2017. Another set of great actors and actresses. The story was not even written when they started filming.
Yep.
They would get it a day or two ahead. And it's like, isn't this what women want? No, you have men writing what they think women want, who just don't even know women that well. And it did not even get to go through a group of people to iron out the problems. This is the problem with white men. I'm the one in power, so I know what everyone below me wants. That's why I'm in power. No, you've exactly proven that is not the reason you're in power. Yeah, not enough consistency in these characters and seeing how they grow and change. And like that was our issue seeing Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey, was these characters were not consistent. The characters were not consistent in it. Versus, we see the characters decently developed in the Suicide Squad and stay true to them. And so when they act a certain way, which seems out of character, they'd already kind of let us know that this might be in the works for them. We see where the potential was there. And that's where Gloria and I were just where afterwards after watching some of those movies, we would then watch Harley Quinn, the animated series, as palate cleansers, to remind us why we love Harley Quinn so much and why she's so fun.
Mm-hmm.
As well as DC stories can be really fun. I mean, this has been a complaint from the beginning for the last 4 decades now, technically, of the animated series. Well, the DC animated stuff in general usually have better quality stories because there's far less executive notes and are based on the stories people already saw in comics. And they are animating it and they are staying true to this is what the audience is already interested in, versus the live action stuff. You get so many executive notes because this is for general audiences. We need to appeal to everyone, so we will appeal to no one. And just, continue the status quo that people weren't interested to begin with. I mean, to me, at least, that also is what the problems in Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey showed, is these are status quo stories.
Mm-hmm.
But they are status quo from the people in power who were not the general audience. I mean, who were the general audience 20 years plus prior, sometimes 30 and 40 years prior.
Mm-hmm.
And what we see these stories for is the general audience of the 80s and 90s. So no one's liking it. No one's liking it as much. And there's so much to improve.
Tis true.
Yeah, that was the trouble with seeing the live action. But yeah, I guess you can kind of use it as the compare and contrast of the animated series and Batman the Animated Series both show how a good short story can work and how a character can develop and what you should be going for in your story. And if it starts to feel more like Suicide Squad or Birds of Prey, then you probably need to reassess what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Why have you removed your character's what's it called? The ability to act on your own. It's usually the problem with female characters when men write them. They don't have any of their own ability to act on their own. That's it.
Agency and autonomy.
Agency. Yeah. We want characters with agency. That's what we're watching for. That's who we root for. And we just really didn't see any agency in Birds of Prey. Like, they edited it out.
I know personally as friends multiple people who got their medical degrees and became licensed physicians, and also a few who became licensed psychiatrists. And
Sorry.
I am here to say that not a one of them is a victim of their life, because it takes so much motivation, internalized motivation, to get through the many, many, many hurdles to become a licensed physician or psychiatrist, that these are not people with learned helplessness. They are people who have definitely learned that they are capable of solving their own problems or finding qualified people to help them solve their problems. And so it is one of the issues I have with the live action portrayals of Harley Quinn. She's never stopped being a psychiatrist, in the sense of, it's not like her character's origin story no longer contains becoming a psychiatrist. And so again, I take issue with her playing the victim and crying and feeling sorry for herself and hiding out in an apartment above a Chinese restaurant because she doesn't know what to do. Like, excuse me, that is not any doctor ever. If anything, their problem is overconfidence. All of them think the poop does not smell. All of them think they always know what they're doing, when in fact they do not. And that is consistent with the Harley Quinn character and how she is portrayed in the animated series as well as the comic books. That is Harley Quinn. She is a psychiatrist who is also a prescribing medical doctor. And she knows people. She knows A&P, anatomy and physiology. She understands how medications work. And she goes out and she solves her own problems, or at least she tries. Is she always right? Well, no, of course not. But she is also willing to be called out when she's wrong.
I don't say Lisa's self-defeating intelligence.
Yes, I would say it's more self-defeating. So, to write Harley Quinn as just a dumb blonde is true misogyny. It's like, y'all's misogyny is showing. Because that is not the Harley Quinn character. You are slapping on a different character with slapping on Harley Quinn's name when that's not her. She's not a dumb blonde. Dumb blondes don't get to graduate and become licensed physicians. And
psychiatry is a specialization you have to go into additional year or two at least to get licensed as a psychiatrist after being an MD.
So, again, I think that in many ways, Harley Quinn is sort of a litmus test for writers and executive misogyny. Because, like, what works about Harley and Joker is the things that I have known my whole life. All psychiatrists are potential war criminals. And that is why she gets along so well with Joker. And that is one of the things that Joker finds so charming and wonderful to love about her. Is she's trying, she knows she's a potential war criminal. And yet, she's here for the ride, but she's trying her best to be a better person than her natural instincts. And Joker's like, then fine, let me test you. And she's like, okay, test me. Because she wants to know herself better, but also to see where she has room to grow and change. And like Joker appreciates that because Joker recognizes that takes bravery. That takes real courage. And it's one of the things he admires about her. That and the fact that she will absolutely shoot him dead when he has it coming. That she loves him so freaking hard and she will also shoot him dead.
So she is one of the few people that keeps the Joker guessing. Which is rare for the Joker. Since, Joker is also another kind of litmus test for writers. Since the real main character of the Joker is an incredibly intelligent person who has been broken by the world and is seeking to take vengeance on it. But you can never forget that they are incredibly intelligent. That is how they are able to stand toe-to-toe with Batman. It means Joker has to be as intelligent as Batman, or else Batman would, long ago just walk all over him. And so, yeah, whenever I see the Joker dumbed down, it's also what's going on here? No, this is a character who's always been a chemist, who just, is their hobby, likes to make different chemical concoctions, is particularly neurotoxins and effective chemistry. And is noted for their creativity and novel usage of them.
Yeah, chemists aren't idiots.
Yeah, so, that's actually a fairly honest take of, again, someone who's got a very particular skill set, but they are very good in that skill set. That everyone else takes note. Yeah, no one wants to see Tony Stark wants to compete in war against Tony Stark's weapons of war.
But I'd had other people suggest Birds of Prey was like a great feminist film. And so I was looking forward to it for that reason. And I was very disappointed of this is not feminism. This is pure misogyny. All the women are victims constantly in this movie. They are not, going out to go find their lives, to deal with their life the way they want to. They're just constantly reacting. And there is no agency going on. They are merely like a leaves tossed on a storm, on the winds of the prevailing, monsters. It's very disconcerting, considering these characters themselves are not victims. So why are they acting like victims? Why are they putting up with this? They act like they've been beaten down by life, but that is not explained how they've been beaten down, and yet, they're just kowtowing.
Like, they took the character names and then they put on someone completely different, because Birds of Prey, I can't remember her first name, but Montoya, the detective, is
Renee.
from, as well, created by the animated series.
Renee Montoya.
Renee was also created by the animated series as a, independent, intelligent character. And she was never just a victim.
Mm-hmm.
She always had plans of how to solve this.
Like,
And here,
even at the end, when like the case gets solved and her boss takes credit again, and she just walks out to all the other cops applauding her boss. And I'm like, what the hell is this? She's not even going to the press or anything. She is not pointing out to anybody that matters, that makes decisions of, this guy takes credit. I am leaving. I'm the one who's actually done all this work. Goodbye. She just slinks out.
yeah, all three of the characters in Birds of Prey who become whatever they end up calling themselves are all only doing that because they have no other choices in life. They don't become heroes because that's what they've always been wanting to do. They do it because all their jobs are gone. So what else are they going to do to keep themselves busy? Like, that's not feminism.
Mm-hmm.
That is not equality. That is some look at the happy ending we gave the victims. BS. And this is where, we had problems, a lot of notes and problems with these movies. Yes, I guess it is lucky we don't actually have a lot of the usual people here right now, so they don't have to hear the critiques.
My issue with The Suicide Squad is it's a very small story that they just put in a whole lot of filler.
Yeah.
It took forever to get to the actual storyline. And then it was solved in less than 20 minutes.
Also,
bumping into an alien's eyeball.
my favorite shtick in a movie that's like, you can always solve this problem just using this little trick, was abused beyond belief. If you're going to have a slow section, show them the fast thing that is going to happen, so why they need to stick around during this boring part. And that happened, I lost count. If every time they did a flashback, you did a shot during the Suicide Squad.
You're thinking of Birds of Prey that had, like, we counted how many flashbacks.
No, you didn't notice in the Suicide Squad, they keep going back in time.
No, that was Birds of Prey, dear. Oh, you're talking about where it's like 8 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Boy, did it drag.
Yeah, how many times did they pull this of where we're going to have to go back in time real quick because we can't actually tell the story in a straightforward fashion?
I thought you were talking about all the flashback scenes where, like, everybody gets an introduction that's like 20 minutes long in the movie.
Well, there's that, yeah, just like in the Suicide Squad, where half that movie was just vignette background stories. But yeah, if you can't write your characters where they can hold the story without you having to know all the prior stuff that happened, you're not developing your characters very well. They're not strong characters. I shouldn't have to know in prior times them showing how great they are as heroes or villains. It should just be obvious in that story you're writing them in. It's, essentially they're doing they're hiding exposition dumps.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're not really hiding it very well.
Yeah.
So instead, what you can do, and it's a normal technique to use, is where one character is introducing themselves to another character, or they're having conversations about, oh, what got you into crime fighting? Well, you see, my whole family was gunned down before my eyes as a child. Oh, yeah, that'll do it. Yeah. So you're like a female Batman? Because his parents were killed too. Like, oh, were they? Oh, okay. No, that makes sense. It's hard to keep parents alive, is what I've learned. Like that kind of.
Or like I actually enjoyed in the Suicide Squad the in the actual stories, currently happening, the Peacemaker and what was Idris Elba's character?
Marksman or
Bloodsport.
something? What a terrible.
Doing their one-upsmanship of showing each, essentially as an excuse to show the skills of these two, that they really are superhuman,
Mm-hmm.
skilled, killers.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a great excuse to do it. Of where, normally no one would do these trick shots, but they're showing off for each other, so we have an excuse to show you what their real skill level is.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're overwhelmed, how much stronger that situation has to be. Versus, let's go back in time and show you what they've previously done on a very special episode you didn't watch.
But there's nothing wrong with characters having conversations with each other about their backgrounds, especially if they don't know each other. Of, oh, how did you get into using a crossbow? Well, okay, so my family was gunned down, and one of my father's goons that had betrayed my father lied and said I was dead when I wasn't, and he took me to his family's home in Italy, where they raised me as their own for 10 years, and it is through them, a family of assassins, that I learned to use a crossbow, and I like it. Oh, so that's what you do? Yep, that is how I got into it. Life's funny. My biological father, would have never been okay with this. But, he did. And then Harley Quinn could have jumped in and like, my father is regrettably still alive. And he is on the run, so I don't hunt him down and find him. Because he used to sell me to people all the time, but I kept coming home. He just called me Daddy's, like, little dirty penny. I'm really glad you did not choose that as your villain name. Yeah, me too.
People might get the wrong idea.
Yeah, they might get the wrong idea. Also, they just call me Penny all the time. Yeah. And like you could have that conversation while you actually show the montage video. It's not necessary to but you can have the characters talk to each other because they did not know each other ahead of time.
Yeah, like that's where shooting the breeze comes in handy in a story.
Or where they're eating. Like there's literally a scene in Birds of Prey where they are sitting at a diner or some other kind of restaurant and they're talking. They're figuring out what they're going to do next and they're getting to know each other. But they already went over the backstory, so they can't do it there. And it's like, why did you do this? You literally have this scene. That's when you should be using this montage where everybody gets introduced to each other. As well as we see how people want to introduce themselves. Like, how does Harley Quinn introduce herself? Well, partly is she's a psychiatrist, so she's always going to be testing people to see how they treat her in order to figure out, what are their blind spots and their prejudices and so on. Versus with Huntress, she's, an orphaned little rich girl.
With a giant chip on her shoulder.
And, just trying to seek revenge and inadvertently find the diamond that it unlocks her family fortune at some bank. And there's Black Canary, who has this really cool ability to sing and destroy things. And also, she's the getaway driver. Like, we have this in heist films where all the people, like, now we're a team. We probably need to introduce ourselves to each other. Like, this is my name. This is what, the cops call me. And these are my skill sets. And this is my background. Don't mess with me. And that is normal in a heist film. And they could have done it then, but instead they just kept interrupting the flow of the movie for like the first freaking hour before they got to this scene. And it's like, it really was not necessary.
It really wasn't. Like, to have all these interruptions when it could have flowed naturally into the story. I mean, like, and
Harley Quinn was actually narrating the movie, so she could have honestly just said, I will introduce you later to her when we get to the restaurant. Like, she could have literally just said that. And it would have been like, okay, the audience knows, just hang on. We will get to that.
Yeah. Yeah,
I agree.
Because, when people suddenly trust each other without really introducing themselves or wanting to explain themselves and be seen by others, it feels forced and clunky. Because, like, that is one of the first things humans want to do, is get the approval of others that they are working with and trusting. That is what you will always see, is like one of the first behaviors they'll do after they introduce and see that they are someone they want to be around. They will then try to gain their approval by explaining themselves and how they would be of interest to this other person.
Like, literally, this has happened to me in the last month with the other group of people. We were all supposed to, like, introduce ourselves to the whole group at once. Like, everybody takes a turn. And it's like, oh, super awkward, but okay. Did I do a great job introducing myself? No. Did I correct Tom's introduction of himself? Yes.
I mean, I think that is actually one of the, and it is something we brought up in some of our other shows, of where, like, to make memes and other stuff about your story, or to find out what are the pull quote stuff, ask other people, because they are not as close to the subject. It is really hard to talk about yourself and introduce yourself because you don't know what it is that interests other people.
And you can literally do that again in a diner scene where the other characters are like, well, this is what I've heard about you. Is this true? And then they can, well, part of it's true. Like, yeah, my family's dead, but they died this way. Or whatever. Or people can even say, like, oh, I've heard of you, Harley Quinn. Is it true your father sold you for a 6-pack of beer? And she's like, it was just 1 40-ouncer. Or whatever. Yes, and he also once sold me for a boat, and he also sold me for this and that and that and this. Like, she could say whatever. I don't know. Like, whatever Harley's gonna say. But yeah, like, I mean, especially as Montoya is a cop, Montoya would be somewhat familiar with all of these other people's background to some degree. Or Montoya could just have said to what's her name, who played Black Canary, I am familiar with Huntress and Harley Quinn, but I have not heard of you. What, how did you get into a life of crime?
How are you involved in all this?
And also, you seem real new to this, because surely I would have already heard about you, because I was literally investigating this case. And I had not heard of you until I hunted you down. So how did you get involved?
Well, till you showed up as the driver. Like,
did you go to driving school? Is that your stick?
We do actually see that play out with Montoya and what she says to and about the youngest girl, the youngest character, who they say her name so little. No, they said it a lot, but it was late. I'm tired. And of, you're such a thief. How have you not gotten better by this point?
Right.
You keep showing up here. How? What? How do you stay this bad? Of like, yeah, there we know something about her. Of like, this is a history. This is not just she just started pickpocketing or something. There is a long history. It didn't take that much. But we now know, and we can have someone else introduce.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it does work better when you have characters introducing each other of what's of note, and you have characters correcting what other people may not know, but they have shown interest about.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's kind of normal for how humans interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're going to say, well, this is what I've heard about you. Is this true? Or I've heard you have a background in this. Is this true? Like, not once did anyone bring up, wait, I heard that you were a psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum? Is that possibly true? And she's like, well, yes, actually. You left a good, solid job for a man. Honey, has feminism not gotten its way to Arkham Asylum? Like, why did nobody call Harley Quinn out on this? And she's like, but love, like, oh, you're a hopeless romantic. Maybe, yes. Like, okay. Oh, okay. So
But
you're one
also,
of
it
those.
informs.
Huh?
Also, those little interactions and what characters say about themselves really informs what their motivations and priorities are, because it's what they notice, and it's what they want to correct and what they want to be known about. Of, just as easily they could have Harley say, the job sucked.
Yeah.
No one listened to me. They were going to get me. I was going to be disbarred within a year, probably, with the stuff they wanted me to do. I was
Doctors
looking to
don't
leave
get disbarred.
anyway.
Lawyers get disbarred.
Oh, yeah, right.
Doctors lose their license.
I was probably, yeah, I'd probably say something like I was going to lose my license in a year or so anyway when, found out what Arkham Asylum was having me do or wanted me to do, and I kept refusing.
Yeah, I was either about to get fired or I was about to lose my license. So
Joker was just a happy accident. And then they all go like, happy accident?
he listened. Oh, God, honey.
Yeah, those expositions feel genuine.
Also, it is common for women to essentially have discussions with each other about feminism. And yet there's no, like, feminism does not exist in Birds of Prey. They do not discuss feminist issues in Birds of Prey, as if none of these writers, and it's supposed to be written by a woman, and none of these writers have ever conceived of women having feminist conversations with each other. Now, from what I understand, and again, I am not here to totally rake across the coals the writer or director of Birds of Prey, but from what I understand from the director, the final movie is definitely not the movie they were trying to make. So I'm going to give the writer and director the benefit of the doubt and blame executives for the movie that ended up being released. And just hope that there is, in fact, a director's cut where maybe there's some more feminist conversations.
Yeah, because it really just feels like they're non to feminism, and that this was a movie about and for women. Was at the very end the scene where they're in the middle of a fight and one of them their hair comes loose. What was it? Black Canary's hair comes loose, and another of them hands her a
hairband.
A hairband, and she's still fighting in the middle of putting her hair back up.
Yeah,
and it's like
versus you've got like two or more women in a room. They are going to say to Harley, "I heard you left your entire career for a man in an insane asylum." So it's not like he got prospects. What gives? Sure, have you heard about feminism? It's only like over 100 years old. Like, at no point did anyone totally call Harley on this, and frankly, they should have, if only to educate the teenager about don't do this. Do not be this woman. You are a professional woman and you left your job and your career for a man who has now broken up with you.
And he hadn't even proposed to you?
It's not like he put a ring on it. Although, again, women give up rights when they get married. So I'm not really advocating for marriage. But anyway, but just simply like,
But just part where, but I just mean the part where he had never actually proposed of.
Right.
Like,
well, he didn't even like steal and give her like a bomb or anything. Like, here, a symbol of my love for you. Like, nothing. Here, I have brought you an island. It is yours now, my sweet. Something.
Or, their first heist. And he's like, would you be my partner in crime? Here's a grenade. Would you care to put on the ring?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that seems like a very Joker and Harley Quinn.
Yes. Something. And instead, nada. Like, but I'm here to tell you, even in the Deep South, women have this conversation constantly of, I heard you left your job over a man. Is that true? Well, yes, but I didn't like that job, and he said he would help me find a new career. Like, and like other women will just rag on each other of like, a tale as old as time. Of like, this is part of what, like, women having conversations with women about like, this is what women drag each other on of like, you left your job for a man, honey.
Did he make you co-leader or even vice leader of the group? Because I never heard that you were the second in charge. I just heard you were his mall.
Mm-hmm. You didn't even get commitment. Like, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
Like, that is how women talk to other women, especially when it's just women. When there's no men around. And there's several scenes in Birds of Prey where there are no men around. And they don't ever have any conversations like that. Or anyone else. Like, where they're all like, I too was raised by a man, a single father who was not my biological father. My gosh, we all have this in common. Like that sort of, none of that. Where they're trying to find some similarities and something unique that they share, which is something that I've experienced quite a bit when I have coworkers.
Yeah, like Tony committed.
Yeah. He put Pepper in charge. I mean, that's real commitment. He's like, here, you run the company. I'm totally not dying.
And like, that's, truly unrelated, but just, it did remind me also about those kind of commitments. That's part of why people still love watching the Robin Williams movie, The Birdcage.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There is that heartfelt scene where, he's telling his, spouse that because legally he can't marry, it's already, all the stuff's in your name.
He put Albert's name on everything, from the property to the company name. Albert owns it all.
Because he doesn't want this without him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, where was that conversation?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we weren't really thrilled with the live action stuff. But we highly recommend the animated.
Well, we have got another sprinty sprint coming up. A little breaky break. And when we come back, I have no idea what we'll do. What will we do, John?
Let's talk about the complicated fun that is the Harley Quinn animated series.
Okay.
And what you can really learn from that, because that is the current modern story that everyone can know and find out and talks to current times.
Okay. Cool. Well, we'll see y'all on the flip side. Mimini me. Mimini, mimini, mimini me. Mimini me. Mimini, mimini, mimini. Welcome back. I know I could totally take a nap right now.
Well, as we were chatting on the break, we did realize we have not talked about your favorite particular portrayal of Harley Quinn. I mean, Batman
and Harley.
Yep. I mean, there's a feminist movie.
Yes. It very much is. And a non-anti-Semitic portrayal of a Jewish female character.
Yes.
So rare.
Truly surprising.
Yep.
And I was surprised when I was rewatching Batman the Animated Series that you can see the proto story that became Batman and Harley Quinn in season 2, episode 5, Harlequinade, where Batman needs Harley to find the Joker, and has to essentially have her tag along to figure out where he is. And we get the same beats down to there's a musical number, and Robin even shows up. You can see how they took a short story in Harlequinade and eventually reworked it, and it became the movie that is Batman and Harley Quinn. And how you don't have to keep to the same story, but just build it up. But you can change the story. You can change the elements. Because in Batman and Harley Quinn, the character the villain they're trying to find is Poison Ivy. But it's the same beats. It's the same main character interactions. We've just, expanded it. And it's a good movie. It's a movie we can definitely recommend.
It is. It really does check pretty much all the boxes. It's funny though to read the critical reviews of Batman and Harley Quinn, because they're like, oh no, it's terrible, it's so terrible, and it's like, you've only quoted male critics.
Yeah, I think part of the problem for them is that the way it ends is Harley showing how much she cares about Poison Ivy. Instead of it being some big old just regular beatdown like we usually see in superhero movies.
Yeah, a lot of critics were upset with the unsatisfactory ending. Versus, is there ever really an ending with these kind of characters? I mean, it's always episodic.
Yeah, and I love that it was a twist. It's a real surprise.
By the way, your door is still open.
It's not still open. It was just opened. Did you not hear the click?
That is what led me to wonder.
Because some kitties do not want to be locked out.
That is why they invented the cat door.
No kidding.
Because cats be cattin'. Hello, Nia.
Hey, Nia.
So.
But yeah, I thought in the end that Harlequinade and Batman and Harley Quinn really shows the proof that we talk about so it takes XP, it just takes experience of writing to build up that writing voice and to get good at writing stories. And that you can use short stories to more quickly improve, because in the end, it's how you become a better writer by doing full stories. You need a complete story. You can't just keep doing introductions. That will not get you good at writing a full story.
Mm-hmm.
But Batman the Animated Series did these full little 3-arc stories in 22 minutes.
You mean 3-act stories?
3-act stories, sorry.
3-arc didn't quite check out.
Yeah. In 22 minutes, and really 15 minutes because it's a kids animated, so there has to be a lot more action that isn't actually developing the story. You can use these little short stories to see if this is a complete story that is of interest. And then you can take that short story and build it up into a novel-length story.
Mm-hmm.
Batman and Harley Quinn is very much a full story, 3 acts. There's no question. It includes everything you want to see in a story.
It's true.
There are surprises, there are twists and turns. I liked for me, the real surprise little twist in Batman and Harley Quinn is where they go and we get to see where the henchmen hang out.
Yep.
When they're not working for these, big villains.
Yes.
They all hang out at this bar and chat.
Yes, this hench bar outside of town.
And to me, at least, for superhero movies, that's a real twist.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you never see, you never expect, and it's important.
Well, I think also, I enjoyed that because it meant that, and as Harley Quinn points out, let's say you stop working for one of you or you get fired, this is where you go to go find another job. This is your network opportunity. And I very much enjoyed that that is what you need. You need to be able to socialize with other professionals in your field so you can hear about who's hiring and who's firing. And so I very much enjoyed that world building.
And again, this is stuff I saw in Venture Brothers that they laud them for.
Mm-hmm.
And here in this movie, because it is more mainstream, because it's DC instead of Hanna-Barbera, it's held up to a very different, strange standard.
Also, I very much enjoyed seeing the interactions that Batman and Robin experienced at the hench bar. Because technically, Robin has a right to be there. But Robin's actually more uncomfortable than Batman, even though all that's happens is one of the henchmen has one of the waitresses send Batman a glass of milk. So and the waitress is like, yes, he said to send you a glass of milk. And so Batman drinks it and then is like, shall we have a fight? Let's have a fight. And then they have a little tussle and then they leave. Now that Harley Quinn has gotten the information she needed, that was why they stopped at the hench bar. I enjoyed this world building. I enjoyed essentially this little interstitial that they had to go off on, essentially on a side quest to go get some information because Harley Quinn didn't know this information. So, but she knew who to go to. She needed to go to Shrubby. I can't remember the character's official name, but come on, Shrubby, tell me. and meanwhile, Batman and Robin are getting ribbed by the other henchmen because they're out of place. And also because, in part, Batman and Robin aren't dancing or having fun at the bar. They're being stiff. And so, yeah, they absolutely deserve to get ripped for it.
Yeah, they are standing out by being judgmental instead of just, being part of the group and just going with what's going on.
Yeah, it's like music's playing. Dance a little. Have a good time. So, yeah, they absolutely have it coming to get sent a glass of milk.
Oh, you're only here because you're on the job.
I thought it was fantastic. It's my favorite part of the whole movie, actually. That, and at the end where Harley and Poison Ivy have some very heartfelt conversations about their futures. Where Harley's like, "It's not worth it. This is not worth it. Please stop trying to destroy the world you and I both live in. We need to live here. Is it really worth death?" Like and essentially Poison Ivy has an issue where she really doesn't see much of a future for herself. And Harley's like, "You absolutely have a future. You have a future with me." And like, but it is really the power of friendship. I mean, obviously there's a little more than just friendship. Um, Hence they do explore that in in particular seasons 2 and 3 of the Harley Quinn animated series. Hence the entire recent episode that just came out, A Very Problematic Valentine's Day, where Harley and Ivy have a very problematic Valentine's Day together. But I really like that because and maybe the reason why I like it so much is because it's a very demi-romantic storyline. Essentially, you start out with friends and then you become more. But you don't stop being friends. Like you don't stop just genuinely caring about each other because you're friends. Hello, Eva. How are you, dear? So, what I take away from what actually works about Harley Quinn and why she is such a successful gateway character for so many diverse audiences is she's vulnerable. She is honest about her trying to be functional in a dysfunctional world with a dysfunctional background. One of the things that she's very good at is she's very good at taking call outs. When somebody calls her on her nonsense, she really does hear them and take it under advisement. Unlike many people, both fictional and in real life, who are like, "Nope, I am not receptive, go away." So these things very much work about Harley Quinn. Also, there's a lot to respect about Harley Quinn. As said, she is a woman with plenty of education, and plenty of drive. She's professional. She is very respectable in that sense. Although, why is she not called out more for leaving her career for a man? So she definitely deserves the ribbing for that. And yet nobody says anything like, "Oh no, that's totally fine and normal." Like, of course, you would have been hypnotized by the Joker's laughter, whatever.
Personality, Glory.
Sure, his winning personality. Could it not have just been like chemicals? Like, he just sprayed her.
But that's just it. That is the part that's unique about Harley, is Harley, in the animated stuff at least, always has agency.
Mm-hmm.
She does always choose, even her mistakes, she chooses them. They don't choose her.
Mm-hmm.
As both Batman and Joker learn at different times.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's one of the things that we do find so endearing about her. She's out here in the streets making her own mistakes, not just having mistakes thrust upon her.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, I thought and that was the part we actually liked in the Suicide Squad,
Mm-hmm.
of where she does not wait to be rescued.
Mm-hmm.
She escapes herself.
And then she's like, "What y'all doing? We're here to rescue you." "Oh, do you want me to go back in so you can rescue?" "No." "You sure? I can do it." "Well, if you're done rescuing me, let's go. I'm sure you have a getaway vehicle. Let's go now." "Yes, I'm taking the javelin with me." I loved that. I love Harley Quinn does not wait to be rescued. She rescues herself, and then she's like, "What y'all doing?"
I mean, if you want to play this rescue scenario, I will totally go back and yeah.
Oh, we can go back and play house. Absolutely, you can rescue me. After I already broke the clavicle of a man with my thighs. How strong are those arms? She's just holding herself on a chain. Her fingerprints the grooves would have to be so deep for her to just be able to hold on and not slip. She would have to have had the forearms of our mother.
I mean, we have known these people.
Yeah, but our mom looked like a potato person, not like Margot Robbie.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really what brings the audiences in that normally wouldn't show up for this kind of genre. Well, for this genre. Is, yeah, Harley Quinn crosses genres.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've been in those situations where you are out.
What is engaging and charming about Harley Quinn is she does not shy away from her own emotions, from her own feels. If she feels them, she's feeling her feels. She isn't like, no, I'm totally fine. She's like, it's terrible. Bring the ice cream. Let's go rob a bank. Maybe I'll feel better then. Yeah, let's go rob a bank.
I mean, it is the part we enjoy in the Harley Quinn animated series.
Mm-hmm. When in doubt, let's go rob something together. You'll feel better then. Yo, okay. I also very much like in the animated series that Harley Quinn really does consider Wonder Woman, and what is that place Wonder Woman's from?
The mascara?
Yeah, it's not feminine mesta. But yeah, treats there's Vera or whatever as like, hey, let's go have a bachelorette party there. What could go wrong? And Poison Ivy's like, sure, why not? Of just viewing these locations just as what they are, locations. It's like, let's go to Vegas. Why not? Why not? Get on the plane.
I mean, is this not the land of warrior women? Are we not?
Are we not? We're warrior women. We're tough. Yeah, we're tough.
Oh yeah, she's good at changing the perspective on things. Well, the good writers are.
One of the things I really like about the Harley Quinn animated series is you really see through Harley Quinn's eyes that she has a very egalitarian view about everyone and everything. All locations are equal. All people are equal. I mean, she's brokenhearted that Joker is now living with some other woman and raising someone else's kid when she wanted children, and the Joker's like, oh, no, let's not have kids. And that, it's really given her a lot to chew on of well, what is, he has the life I wanted to have with him, but he didn't want to have it with me. I mean, talk about deep wound.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's got to put her life back together. And yeah, she is going to definitely mess it up first. Go mess it up even harder, babes. She does. And that ultimately, every time Harley Quinn goes out, she messes things up before she gets it right. And I appreciate that does not in any way dissuade her from trying again. And that actually is in a nutshell what happens with the Valentine's Day episode, where she's trying to give Poison Ivy a great Valentine's Day. And Poison Ivy just wants to stay home and binge Netflix reality shows and then, have a little hanky panky in the bedroom and go to bed. That's it. And Harley Quinn wants like a whole show. She wants to like live big. And they negotiate and they're like, okay, they agree. We'll both go out to eat and then we'll go home and that'll be the nice Valentine's Day. But it's not enough for Harley because she wants the best Valentine's Day ever. And it takes a lot of BS and a lot of drama before Poison Ivy, who really does keep things close to the vest, finally explains to Harley why it can never be the best Valentine's Day ever because she's already had the best Valentine's Day with Harley Quinn. It will never be as good as that partly because Poison Ivy was in such a dark place mentally and emotionally in that moment in Arkham Asylum. And Harley Quinn, when she was still a doctor, came and spent Valentine's Day, spent a little time with her, sort of out of the blue. And that's why that will always be the best Valentine's Day ever, because it sort of changed the trajectory of Poison Ivy's life. It gave her a ray of hope in one of her darkest moments ever. And that's very sweet. It's very heartfelt. You would not expect an animated cartoon, a show intended for children, to have so much wholesomeness and so much vulnerability, but also it's so relatable. Of most people at some point in their life, they're going to have these very dark moments. They're going to have times where they're just truly without hope. I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but that is just true. So it's really about the people who are still trying to spend time with you, even when you're struggling to find hope, that are the most meaningful to you. And they do come to understand that together. And then they need to fix everything Harley Quinn has messed up. And she has messed things up really big. I want you to imagine like a 6-story tall Bane naked, rampaging through Gotham City. Literally, they have to cover his junk with an 18-wheeler. Like, they use it like a loincloth kind of situation. Because Bane also has an entire story arc in this where he is feeling lonely and then he is feeling genitally inadequate.
All those roids.
And then hilarity ensues. I don't think a 6-story tall Bane is that great of an idea. I mean, he's knocking over buildings left and right. These buildings were not constructed very well. If Bane can just sort of run into them and knock them over. And I am genuinely concerned about all the people in them. Thankfully, I guess, it does not actually dissuade the person Bane is sweet on. Even though there's definitely a size difference problem now. Now that he's like the size of King Kong or bigger, he's like kaiju size. Also, it's Bane. He's not bright.
But that is the fun of showing, that love matters. When you really care about someone.
You know what I like about Batman? Like the world, of Batman, of Gotham City. There's a lot of dominatrixes. Like, there's a lot. Because, like, Bane meets a dominatrix on the street who mistakes him for the person she's going to work with that night on this other guy.
Mm.
And then Bane just sort of goes along with it.
I mean, you've got nothing else to do that night.
That was sort of his thought. Was like, well, okay. And they end up working really well together on this client. And things go so well that they're going to, go back to her place afterwards. And I'm just like, especially after when we were reading the origin story of Catwoman, I'm like, how many dominatrices are in Gotham City? My God, there's a lot of them that end up with storylines in Gotham.
I mean, I don't have answers for that.
I just think it's kind of interesting.
Versus, I have to admit, like when I was the main story in between Harley and Ivy just really made me think of a real life couple. The British one where she's a dentist.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
Of like, they really seem to have a similar dynamic of this. Yeah, they both try to bring the best out of the other person, and that is why they like being with the other person.
Yeah,
is they feel more complete and whole when they're with them, and that is what the Valentine special really gets to talking about. Is it's not that they have the exact same ideas, they're the same personality or anything. It's they're happier to be themselves though with the other person. And we also see that played out repeatedly throughout, including with Bane.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were talking about the first thing people do when they make friendships to any degree is they seek the approval of the other person for who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find someone who approves of who you are, you just want to keep being around them.
Yeah.
Because then you can be happy and safe being yourself.
Yep.
And that is what a lot of the Harley Quinn stories are about, is finding how to be your genuine self without reservations. Because growing up, we keep being told, no, fit in more.
Yeah.
School's
Versus
rough.
find the place where you belong. The place you don't have to change who you are. You already belong there.
Yeah.
There's nothing to change. I think that is honestly one of those reasons why you and I have stayed best friends from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Is even when we were kids, you and our younger sister never had any idea that I needed to change who I am to be more acceptable to either of you. That I just already felt like I belonged, and that I didn't need to change who I am at my core in order to be socially acceptable to either of you.
Mm.
Versus everyone else wanted me to be more this, less this, whatever. And I can do those things, but not forever.
I mean, hence the whole masking thing. It's exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I think ultimately crafting authentic characters is very important, and that there are not enough authentic characters who are comfortable being vulnerable and honest with other characters in stories to satisfy the reader demand for such characters.
Yeah, being vulnerable does not mean that they lack agency.
Mm-hmm.
Being vulnerable just means there's situations they are not always prepared for. They don't have a skill set to automatically get out of. I mean, like, that was the whole argument discussion about Star Trek Next Generation, was even if everyone on Earth has all their basic needs met, it doesn't mean that there will not be some forms of conflict that will always naturally arise between people. Because they will just be conflicts of interest.
It's true.
Like, they will be at opposed ends of the same thing. And that is where stories are.
It is true.
As well as no one thinks of themselves as a villain inside their own head. Harley also shows that really well. I mean, she will occasionally be like, oh, I'm going to be naughty here, but it's not the, oh, I seek the end of the world because I just want to be the person known to end the world. Well, I think we have gone through everything.
I think we've, addressed everything. So, do you have any final thoughts?
I do have one last final thought I just thought of.
What you got?
Harley Quinn is a more honest, correct character when people want to write manic pixie girls. Harley is more of what is an authentic form.
Good point. Do not forget that your manic pixie girl needs her own storyline. She's on her own journey. She is not just a device for other characters.
She always has her own agency.
Mm-hmm.
It is not just there for others.
Well, as always, if you've enjoyed yourself here, and we hope you have, we hope that you will consider clicking like, sharing, and if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. You're going to have a great time. Next week, what to expect on next week's episode, it will be our, I guess in theory, our final in our 3-parter of Tribute to Kevin Smith. We analyzed the last decade or so of Kevin Smith films. Although, understand, be prepared, I'm not going to go over Tusk. Mostly because I'm not going to watch it. I can't. Nope. I'm not into body horror like that. I will be talking about Yoga Hosers. Because little exploding dolls filled with sauerkraut, I'm okay with that.
I mean, and it is definitely one of Justin Long's better characters.
I agree. But yes, we'll be going over the last, 10, 15 years of Kevin Smith films. And in particular, his, Clerks 3 that came out in the last year. Yoga Hosers. I think they're actually working on a new Mallrats one.
Yes, they are.
Unfortunately, it's not out yet. But we're going to be going over essentially a further review of the View Askew universe. I would really love it if he would come out with a second Dogma movie, quite honestly. Truly, there's more angel shenanigans out there, y'all. And so we hope that you will stay tuned for that. You'll come back on Monday for that. As we wrap up our review of the Kevin Smith storytelling. He is a unique storyteller who has really brought a lot to the conversation for Gen Xers and millennials. There's a certain validity to what he has put in his storytelling. One of the things that he really brought in is essentially having fan fiction conversations in non-fan fiction films. Like, this is something that in his View Askewniverse world, his characters do, is they essentially discuss the important philosophical questions of Star Wars, Star Trek, and all the fandoms.
Lord of the Rings.
It's a lot of Lord of the Rings. So we do hope that you will stay tuned and that you will come back, and we will see you next week. Good night, everybody.